These are the Lobbing Scorchers Ambition Ratings.
Ari, what's an ambition rating?
Glad you asked, Noah. An ambition rating is something that I created using a very sophisticated mathematical formula that has given each team at the ambition table a score out of 50. I have rated 7 different MLS clubs with scores out of 50 based on their all-time ambition ratings and their current ambition ratings, and I'm going to tell you exactly how I got those ratings. The reason I did this is because I have seen a ton of ambition takes flying around. People are saying that because Seattle traded for Jesus Ferreira, they're not ambitious. Rusnak as a DP, where's the ambition?
Nico, you're being called out now.
But that it doesn't mean anything unless you have actual criteria that you're basing it off of. You're just talking. So I took it upon myself to create these ratings. 7 clubs at the ambition table. People were talking about how Toronto should be on there and stuff. I might do these ratings for more teams, but these are just the ones that I came up with that I feel like people talk about as the ambitious clubs in MLS. And that doesn't necessarily mean the winningest. You'll notice that Atlanta United is on here. They have been considered an ambitious club because, they spend a lot of money, and they definitely, with Barco and Almiron and Joseph, especially when they first came in the league, they were ambitious. They trailblazed, they belong on here, even though they've struggled the last couple of years. Relevance in your market, fan support. FC Cincinnati has some of the best of that in the league. If you have that part of the criteria, even if you're not necessarily the winningest club ever, you still have a case for being ambitious.
Let's jump into it.
The all-time ambition ratings, I have Galaxy number 1. Seattle came in at number 2. Some people aren't going to like that. Seattle came in at number 2. Columbus tied, actually. Seattle and Columbus got the same score. Inter Miami, number 3. LAFC, Atlanta United, FC Cincinnati. But the criteria changed for the current ambition ratings, and the teams got different scores. So as you can see, these are the current ambitions. This is where they stand in the league right now. And you'll notice Seattle's score was way lower. And I think that actually is indicative of kind of how people feel about the team right now. But I'm going to explain the criteria first. Okay. This is 5 things for the criteria for all time and for current. And then I gave each team a score out of 10 on these 5 things. So for all time, I was looking at in-market national relevance, attendance, stuff like that. Big signings. So either name value or pedigree. International tournament performance. People don't take this into account at all when they're talking about ambition, but I think it says a lot about your ambition. Do you go to that tournament and just totally suck and crash out immediately? Do you go and put on a good showing? Winning big games, how do you perform when the lights are the brightest? And then what did it get you? Your overall trophy haul. So that's what I was looking at for all-time ambition ratings. For current, I was looking at in-market national relevance, attendance again, which some teams all-time relevance is different than their current relevance. Relevant for trophies, big game performance. A couple of these are they carry over, but these ones are different, current roster and then set up best for the future, making big news, signings that actually hit. So, and then I also have a trophy case tracker. So I added up all the trophies all these teams have ever won because I think that's one of the biggest indicators of ambition. And I included conference champions in this. So people might not agree with that, but I think any year where you win your conference, that's a year where you were in it. You were relevant, and you also do literally get a trophy for that. So if you look at the trophy case tracker, the Galaxy have 23 all time if you include
not
their
the asterisk on CCC.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I actually threw them a bone by giving them that CCC from 2000. But that, okay, I could probably take that asterisk away in the sense that was what they were playing in overall legacies and ambition and trophy haul. But Seattle's got CCC, Columbus doesn't. So we'll see how that affected the ratings. And then they
almost had leads.
You got the trophy case tracker is a little less relevant for the newer clubs LAFC. They already have 7. That's pretty
cooking.
Damn good. Inter Miami, they only have 2. FC Cincinnati, they only have 1, but they're both still relatively young clubs. So for the LA Galaxy, in-market national relevance, I gave them an 8 because, we were just down there.
Yeah.
They're killing it right now.
It hasn't always been like that.
It hasn't, well, it wasn't like that the last few years, but they brought it back. And I think generally speaking, but I think the Galaxy have been very relevant in that market. Their games are well attended. I knocked them down a little bit because I think LAFC took their shine for a little while and kind of encroach on their local relevance to an extent. extent. I was just down there for their last 2 playoff games, including the Cup, and it was lit. So I gave him a good score for that. Big signings, name value or pedigree. I gave him a 10. Like, I don't think you could name a club that's had more of them, you know? And like,
they were the OG.
So they get a good score there for the David Beckham thing. And then Landon Donovan, Robbie Keane. You could go down the list of all of their great rosters they had during those years. And then now what they've done with the Triple Ps and Jovic, there's no club that has like done that better than them.
No.
International tournament performance, I gave them a 5 just to throw them a bone for their like Mickey Mouse CCC. But like, that is the number one thing that they got knocked for on both of these. Winning big games, I gave them a 10. 6 MLS Cups out of 10 tries. That's 600 winning percentage in MLS Cup. You have to win.
Good.
You have to win a ton of playoff games to get there. And also, it's not like they definitely don't have a rep as like choke artists or anything. But when you lead the trophy case by as much as they do, you've won a lot of big games.
Yeah.
And then I also gave them a 10 for Trophy Hall because
that's most cups.
Six
cups is crazy. They're gonna have to redesign the star.
6 cups, and they also have won 4 shields. They won Open Cup a couple times. So that's
they've won everything but
Leagues Cup.
Yeah, Leagues Cup. Everything but Leagues Cup.
Yeah. So, and really,
give them a chance. They might.
So with that, I have given the LA Galaxy an MLS leading ambition rating of 43.0. I put decimals because in case we want to change it. LA Galaxy currently, they got a 45, 8 for relevance, 10 for in the mix for trophies, 8 for big game performance. Best current roster setup for the future, I gave them a 9. I think they're chilling. I mean, their youth development maybe isn't as like strong as some other clubs, but it doesn't really matter right now with their roster. And then big moves and signings that hit easily a 10 for 11. What their roster looks like right now. Okay, so let's do Seattle now. This is how I got the 42 for Seattle, which is I have them. This score has them only 1 off Galaxy in market national relevance attendance. So I gave them a 7. This might be controversial, but like this is all time. This is all time. So you have to give them credit for the early beginning and how electric that was for that whole era.
CCC final.
Just as much as you have to ding them down for where things stand now, which is, you know, they're still putting 29, 30,000 people at the games. But I think there's a general, a lot of the consternation around the team is that this kind of local relevance has the shines like come off a little bit. It's not like it doesn't hit like it quite used to, but I came up with 7 because I think you do have to give credit.
This is all time. Yeah.
This is all time. So I'm giving them credit for,
I mean, think about how many
beginning they have.
They had the record for a long time for attendance, not only like cumulative attendance, but also like biggest game ever played for a while. And I mean, that's like, if you were at MLS Cup 2019, if you were at CCC, man, there is not a better atmosphere in the entire country. I mean, that was insane.
Yeah, and they had claim to that for a long time. So that's what I'm taking into account there. Big signings. I mean, Clint Dempsey, Nico Ladero, Raul Ruidiaz, Freddie back in the day, Albert Rusnak. But no, I mean, in all seriousness, like for all time, the track record is good.
Yeah.
Like Dempsey was considered a very like push the league forward type signing, right? Ladero and Ruidiaz are 2 of the best DP signings, I think, in league history. Ladero certainly is arguably that signing hit arguably harder than like any DP
other than
of that era.
Of that era for sure, 100%.
You know? So anyway, I gave him. I know, like I said, these are the all-time ratings. I know people aren't going to agree right now, but all-time, I think the track record is very good. International tournament performance. Until someone else wins CCC, Seattle gets a 10 year. They're the only team to win that.
Yeah.
So I know that doesn't necessarily take into account like all the years that they went and didn't perform well and didn't win, but they got it done, and they're the only team that has that trophy. And I think, like I said, I consider that such an important part of this quote-unquote ambition that everyone is talking about.
And they almost
how well you do in that.
They almost won the first iteration of Leagues Cup.
Yeah, they went to the Leagues Cup final and performed well in that tournament.
And they've played in multiple Champions Leagues and been competitive.
Plus played in Club World Cup.
Played in Club World Cup. Yep.
What did it get you overall trophy haul? Seattle also gets a 10 in my opinion. CCC is what put that over the top. But I mean, if you look at the tracker, they have a shield. They have a couple MLS Cups. They have the 4 Open Cups. They've won the West 4 times. And
trophies
the CCC
per season
is the whole. Yeah. They have the holy grail that no one else has.
Yeah, not yet.
That is really what defines ambition to me.
And when they win the Club World Cup, that's that's going to be a
it's
15.
going to be a 15,
15
out of 10.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's how I came up with 42 out of 50 for Seattle's all-time ambition rating. So Seattle went from 42 on the all-time ratings. In-market relevance attendance, I kept that as a 7. I think that's about right. Okay, here's my argument for why it's not lower. Yes, like the vibes aren't what they used to be, but I think most MLS clubs, if they were averaging 29, 30K per game and still had the atmosphere that Seattle does have, like it's good. It's good, like compared to that. It's just, it feels like it's not living up to what it once was. But what it is right now is still like, it's still a good scene for an MLS game. And the fan base is very dedicated and supportive of the team. You know, there's a lot of discussion and debate on, you know, how to get this back to a 9 or a 10. I think the answer to that question is winning games. If they become like a consistently winning dominant team again, the vibes will return. That's what it's going to take. The big game performance, I gave a 7 because I feel like since they won CCC, like this used to be the best big game club in the league. Like every time the lights were the brightest, that's when they would play their best. When the chips are actually on the table, they're usually up for it. Best current roster set up best for the future.
I think Anthony here makes a good point. You got to give our academy system good credit. I mean, they are obviously producing some incredible talent. And I think the pathway for a player to become an integrated starter with this team, from youth development to finding, scouting, and implementing players like Georgie into the Defiance, I think it's better than most teams in the league.
And we are finally kind of seeing the fruits of that in the last couple years, but especially this year. I think you got to give him credit for how much of an impact player Obed has become. And then even a guy like Josh Atencio is not as good as Obed, but like he plays good MLS minutes for them. I have Seattle rated as a 35 out of 50 on the official current ambition rating. So Columbus Crew, in-market national relevance attendance, I gave them a 9 because the stadium they built is one of the sickest stadiums in the league. It looks like they pack it with a great atmosphere every weekend. And Crew fans, as much as we gave them a hard time this last year and they are pretty annoying, they care about the team. A lot of them do know ball that I've talked to. Like they,
unfortunately,
as annoying as they can be sometimes, and as much as they need to get a backup goalkeeper, like it's a great market for the sport and they're very well supported. And the only reason that I gave them a 9 is because they had to save their team at one point. Big signings. Cucho and Diego Rossi are two of the best signings of the moment. They pulled a great one getting Nagby. Honestly, their roster building under Bezpachenko was
arguably a 10 on roster building.
International tournament performance, I gave them credit here. Like they won Leagues Cup. That Champions League run was very impressive.
It was a good run.
They
had a really hard time.
I think how they've performed in those tournaments the last couple years has put them in the conversation of the clubs that go to those tournaments and actually show out and perform. Recency bias, yes, but that like the recency, how you did recently plays into how you're perceived all time. Winning big games, I gave them an 8. You know, they've won 3 MLS Cups, been a good playoff team, won a lot of big games.
They've
in Champions
only
League.
played in 2 MLS Cups though. I don't know how they got that second one.
Yeah,
not sure.
Overall trophy haul, what did it get you? I gave them a 9 instead of a 10 because they don't have CCC.
Yeah,
that's it. Get CCC, you get a 10. Columbus, I gave them a 10 for right now in market relevance and attendance with their new stadium. Relevant for trophies, like there's a few teams where every time that there's a tournament or the playoffs, all those teams I think are just there in that snap conversation of like, there's a tournament, they're one of the front runners. LAFC, I gave them an 8 for in-market national relevance, same as the Galaxy. I feel like they sort of split the soccer relevance. Big signings, I gave them a 9. I mean, they've made a lot of big signings. I think Carlos Vela and Rossi, you get a good score here. Like Giroud was a big signing, even if he didn't produce. Like you could argue that they were taking a big swing there. And that's sort of
its name value.
Maybe a better name for this criteria should be like big swings. Their ambition as far as their roster builds go has been good and impressive. International tournament performance, they deserve credit for, I think, how they've played in Champions League overall. They've never won it, but like it seems like every time they're in it, they're a serious team.
They compete.
They compete.
They don't do.
They haven't won it. They lost a final, but like I think that
they're famous for losing finals.
They've played pretty well on the whole when they've gotten the chance in those tournaments.
But they don't have a trophy.
Do you think that should be lower?
I mean, I would think if you're getting because 70 is like it's a passing grade.
Yeah.
You can't pass without doing the assignment.
You
They
can.
turn in a blank piece of paper.
You
What do they
can,
got down
you can
there?
pass an assignment without getting it 100%.
Yeah, but is winning a trophy 100%?
LAFC comes in at a 40 in market relevance, attendance, 8 relevant for trophies,
How does it
10
roll?
they're always in the mix. Big game performance, 6 current roster set up for the future, 8 big move signings that actually hit, 8 they've signed a lot. They made a lot of really good signings that hit, but they've missed on a few like J. Rue, like they get docked for that. Inter Miami coming in next.
I think you should add in the next iteration of this international relevance to that top line.
Yeah, the criteria can change too. I gave him an 8 for in-market with national relevance attendance. I think they need a stadium that's not in Fort Lauderdale or whatever.
They are building.
And
finally.
also, like, as much as Messi and the Barca boys have increased their relevance, like,
will it stay?
well, will it stay? And also, I don't know. It's not like they like took over the city, did they? I don't know.
I don't know,
wasn't
man.
there.
I see an Inter Miami jersey just about every time I go out to like a place that's populated with children.
All right. But what I would say is that what they did with their roster is so like unprecedented and like above and beyond anything that we've kind of seen in terms of it. It's sort of, I don't even really think about their humble beginnings anymore.
They're
because-
illegal beginnings.
Yeah. I mean, big signings. You cannot give this team anything other than a 10.
Yeah, that's
They're
bang.
the
Bang.
best. They're the top club ever as far as that criteria.
Yeah, they literally signed the greatest striker of all time. You know who
Yeah.
that is?
Leo Campana.
No, Robert Taylor.
Oh.
Come on. Oh.
He's a winger, not a.
Okay, well, he bangs in
Yeah,
goals like a
he does.
striker.
International tournament performance. I gave him a 6, man. I know they won Leagues Cup right after Messi got here, but the fact that they bombed out of Champions League the way that they did this last year was unexpected,
That was
and
pretty funny.
it was a letdown. I
pretty
thought
funny.
they were for sure making a run.
And Cup, man.
Honestly, man, I think they're
They're
a
lower than
6.
that to me.
They're a 6 for me here. They're a 6 for me here.
I'd go 5, but
Especially when you take into account the expectations that they had, like their actual performance when the lights were on is a 6.
yeah.
I think they're probably going to get a lot better, but for now, their results have been a 6.
Losing
based on
to
their
Atlanta
rise.
has to go down to 6.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
What did it get you? Their trophy haul for how good their team has been is not as
They
impressive as it should be, arguably.
I think that trophy haul should be a 0. They
They won the Shield
okay,
and
they can-
Leagues Cup.
They can have their Mickey Mouse shield. They can have whatever 3. That's what I would say. That's
You
my
would-
take.
You would
I
give
would
their-
bomb them down, dude. Think about it. What did it get you? They spent how much money? They literally
It got them-
90% of the Apple TV deal goes straight to Messi's pockets. You know what it's gotten them? A Mickey Mouse Leagues Cup and a shield that literally nobody cares about.
I don't know.
If you're
about-
ranking the
the
trophy,
shield and the points record.
if
that's
you're,
an accom- that's a good
the points
accomplishment.
record is not a trophy though.
Yes, that's true. that
And
is true.
the points record was hit because there's more teams and more games playing.
I think you're kind of convincing me. I think there's a good argument that this should be lower.
They're incredibly for what they have. It is incredibly underwhelming.
They didn't get close to the cup. They didn't get close to Champions. They have not performed well in international tournaments. They bombed out of Champions League. That was really disappointing. They have not performed particularly well in big games. They lost to Atlanta United in the playoffs.
Brad Guzan owns them.
Brad Guzan now owns their club.
Yeah.
Their overall trophy haul, given their roster, is frankly disappointing,
Yeah,
given
it's
the
bad.
players they have. So this is sort of what I'm talking about when this is a relative game. People talk about Seattle being not ambitious, but relative to what? People would say they're way less ambitious than the team that signed Messi, but what did that team really get? They got a 5 on the trophy.
They got a 5.
You know? So that's why you actually have to think about like what you mean when you say ambition. Instead of just firing. Inter Miami, 8 for relevance attendance, 10 for relevant for trophies. They're always in the mix there. Big game performance, 6. Best current roster set up, best for the future. That's one where it's a little interesting with this team because the Barca boys are old, but like they have signed a lot of really good like young prospects too. And then I just feel like with what they have set up now, they're probably in a situation where they're a very desirable destination.
They built a good brand.
They built a good brand. I think they're set up pretty well. But I did knock them down to an 8 instead of higher just because a lot of their best players are up in their mid-30s.
True.
Big move signings, they obviously get a 10.
Messi.
Atlanta United, in-market national relevance attendance, 10. They are still, even with how much they have struggled in the last couple years, they pack 70 into that stadium on the regular. Their crowds are electric. That fan base is almost too into it for like how poorly they've been performing the last couple years. I really want to go to that stadium, but as far as their presence in the city of Atlanta, like they easily get
it's
a 10.
real, yeah.
And on that same token, they get a 10 for like the big signings and the swings that they've taken. Almiron and Joseph were phenomenal signings that I think really you could argue that those pushed the league forward in a way. They've signed a lot for a lot of money that didn't work out, but they still took the swings. All those guys that they dropped those huge bags on, that shows that they are willing. Yeah, they do the business.
They do the business.
More than anyone, they will drop that money.
Yeah.
Arthur Blank. International tournament performance, 0. They haven't done in any of them to my memory.
No.
They get nothing for that. Winning big games, I gave them a 6. They won an MLS Cup and they beat Messi. There have been a couple instances where they've won some big games. They won cup. What did it get you? Overall trophy haul, I gave them a 7 because a cup that early in their existence, like for how young a team they are, I think their haul is not bad. Got a 21.0. I still gave them a 10 for relevance. They have not been relevant for trophies the last couple years. Big game performance, I gave them a 4 for the Messi win, but that's about it. Set up best for the future. I mean, they
used to be good in big games. They used to be really good.
But this is current ratings.
Yeah, but didn't they win Shield and Cup?
I give them credit for that in the all-time formula. Not the current formula. This is like the last couple years. Making big move signings that actually hit. I mean, some of Boca's roster work was some of the worst.
It was so bad.
Some of the worst in the league.
He needed to be.
So anyway, they get a 21.
Yeah.
All right, FC Cincinnati. In-market national this one is why I put them in here, because they have one of the best stadiums, one of the best crowds in the league since Pat Noonan and Chris Albright did their makeover. They've showed a lot of ambition in terms of like building that stadium and how they pack it every week. They've got a crazy dedicated fan base.
Yep.
Big signings, I gave them a 7. Lucho Acosta was a great one. All-time rating takes into account their early days where they had one of the worst rosters I've ever seen.
It was pretty bad, but they did come straight. They just came straight from USL and just basically like popped in a bunch of the random people they had. So like, I mean, what are you gonna do?
International tournaments, 0. I don't remember them doing anything in Champions League or Leagues Cup really. Winning big games, 6. I mean, they won a Shield. They won a couple Hellas Reels. What did it get you? Trophy haul, I gave them a 6.
That's what I think should be lower.
I think them winning a Shield coming off the era that they were on is pretty impressive. Like it's
not contextual. It's what did it get you?
Their ambition got them a supporter shield, which early on in their MLS existence people would have been like, "There's no way this team is one of the worst of all time." And they
won Spoon 3 years in a row. Is that going into the?
I'm just gonna leave them because they're in last place anyway. It's representative of like kind of how I got to these scores. Like a club like FC Cincinnati, that's a young club that turned around a really bad start and got a shield. FC Cincinnati, I had them coming in as currently more ambitious than the Sounders.
Damn.
In-market relevance attendance 10. Relevant for trophies 7. Big game performance is 5. Best current roster set up best for future 7. Making big move signings that actually hit 8. That came out to 37. Those are the Lobbing Scorchers Ambition Ratings. Like I said,
if you disagree, drop a comment below, but you're wrong.
Yeah, it's a little facetious with them, but it was an interesting exercise to go through and kind of like rate where I think all these teams stand at the moment. And I was kind of interested in what I found, which is that Seattle ranks very high in the all-time ratings. There is work to do. Like, don't get it twisted. They've got to start racking trophies again, and the roster needs. I think it needs a shot in the arm beyond just Jesus Ferreira. I think that's an awesome trade. I'm really excited to watch him play. I think he's going to fit in well on the team, and I think he's going to meaningfully bolster the production of the attack and the aesthetic of the attack. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things that I've been telling people about this guy is I really enjoy watching him play.